in about 1 minute. I have been told explicitly we will start a minute or two after 11 o'clock to make sure all of our students are able to make it here. So I hope that we will get started here in just a moment. All right, we are a minute after 11 here in Holland. I'm sure it is different times all over from where our guests are joining us from. Welcome everyone. My name is Kate Ralston. I am the Associate Director of Alumni and Family Engagement here at Hope. We are delighted to have you all here for a conversation about going global after graduation. So all of our panelists here today are folks that have left the United States and gone throughout the world to continue their career and make impacts in the global community. So we are excited to have them joining us today. Housekeeping things, just so you all are aware, this is scheduled to go until about 11:50. That is to accommodate for our students' schedules. Also, a housekeeping note as well, this is being recorded and we will be able to utilize this information for students and alumni who were not able to join us, many of which had some time zone issues with just trying to make sure they get some sleep too. And then also, if you look down on the bottom of your screen, for most of you, there is a chat option, which a couple of you have been utilizing, and that's great for noting any advice that you have, communicating your email address if you would like students to be able to contact you directly, and any kind of chatter back and forth. If you have a question, a specific question that you would like to have addressed by the panelists, we'd love for you to use the Q&A feature, which is has those two little talking points or talking bubbles there. So be sure you use the Q&A if you have a question. Chat is fantastic if you want to reach out to one of the panelists or one of us if you have like a technical question, or if you just want to talk back and forth to each other or offer your own advice. We'll be collecting that advice and sharing it with students. So if you are an alum here that has some really great input, that rest assured that that will be utilized as well. Questions are for the Q&A. Also, if you are not part of the Hope College Connection Live platform yet, or I'm sorry, the Hope College Connection platform yet, we would love for you to join it. It's a little bit like LinkedIn meets Match.com only for Hope people. So it's a really great way for people to connect with each other. We always say, you know, the Hope family is strong. You'll find someone sitting next to you on an airplane somewhere. They'll have some connection to Hope and they'll help you out. So we kind of want to bring that into a format where virtually students can connect with alumni and people who want to help them out. So it's also a great feature for alumni to connect with each other as well. Without further ado, I'd love to introduce our moderator for this morning / this evening, wherever you are. Megan Flynn is our student worker here in the Alumni and Family Engagement department, and she is a fantastic team member and a wonderful Hope student, class of 23, and we would love to welcome her and thank her for putting herself out there and being our moderator today. So welcome, Megan.
Yes, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I am really honored to be here on this great team of panelists. This is such a great group of people, and the fact that I'm able to sit here with you is such a privilege. For those of you who don't know me, I am a biology and Spanish major, a junior, so expected to graduate next year. I'm on the pre-med track, and I work for the Bohr Richter Center as a career ambassador with these lovely ladies. And with that, I think we should get on to our panelists. So Justin, if you want to start introducing the whole group or yourself, then the whole group.
Start with myself. Yeah, thank you very much, Kate, Amanda, Megan. I really appreciate you putting this on and giving me the chance to be a part of it. My name is Justin Bussies. I graduated back in 2010. Currently here in Tokyo, Japan, but I'm working as a recruitment consultant for the chemical and advanced materials industry. Company is Robert Walters Japan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Seth, if you want to go next.
Yeah, thank you, Megan, and thanks to everyone for including me on the panel. Should be a good discussion today. So my name is Seth Gray. I graduated in 2008 with degrees in chemistry and psychology, and I'm currently a physician practicing pediatric cardiac intensive care medicine in Toronto, Ontario. So not exactly overseas. I use the Google machine, and it's about 618 kilometers from Holland right now, but maybe hopefully be able to share a little bit more of an international perspective to our, with our neighbors to the north. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. That's really funny. 618 kilometers. I'm not sure how many miles that is, but good to know. Laura, if you want to kick us off next.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura, and I work with Catholic Relief Services as a monitoring, evaluation, accountability, learning. It's kind of a long title, technical advisor for their humanitarian response department. So I currently live in Colombia, South America, but I mostly cover Africa and other regions. And I graduated in 2011 with a degree in international studies and Spanish.
Yeah, thank you so much. Laura Slater, if you want to go next.
Yeah, so I graduated in 91 with a degree in learning disabilities, elementary ed. And actually tomorrow we will finish 25 years in Uganda. So we've been here in East Africa for a while. And I'm currently working as a special education coordinator for an international school here in Kampala. Thank you.
Wow, that's congratulations on 25 years. That's really an accomplishment. Yeah, Jill, if you want to finish us off here. Oh, I think you're still muted.
I knew I was going to do that, which is ironic, given my job. Anyway, thanks so much for having me. My name is Jill Zappia. I graduated in 2010 with a degree in elementary education and English, and I'm currently living in Barcelona, and I work at an international school as a technology coach. And I'm coming here this year. Last year I was in Korea. Before that I was in Kuwait. So have been to a couple of different places the last couple of years.
Yeah, thank you. And it sounds like we have people coming from all over. So I, again, really appreciate the adjusting your schedules to come join us. And without further ado, how about we get into some questions? One of the first things that I was going to ask everybody was, why did you end up deciding to work overseas after graduation, and what brought you to the country that you currently live in now? And I don't know if Justin, you want to go ahead and start this one off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Megan. I guess I can answer this two ways because I really came to Japan 2 times. So there was the first time following graduation, and for that reason, I had a degree in kind of the business international studies with some focus in Japanese. So I thought, well, great, I can use my time abroad, and just try to put all that to use. And for that experience, I was a teacher. I did that for 3 years in pretty deep rural Japan. It was honestly a wonderful experience, but I did not train to be a teacher. So it was clear that the time was it was time to come home. So I was back in the States in Chicago for about 4 years. And during that time, I met my fiance, my now wife. And so the second time we came back, she's actually a Japanese American. And we just decided for kind of family, for career, for kind of new opportunities, we decided to come. And this time around, it's been just about 5 years.
Wow, 5 years. That is quite an accomplishment yet again. I would still say 5 years is quite a long time. And I'm sure that life change is a really exciting journey you've been on. And I think a lot of new opportunities is what a lot of people seek. So thank you for your answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm happy to kind of jump in next. I I was a little bit different in that I came for training specifically. And so I came in 2018 to do some more training in pediatric intensive care medicine. I previously had been in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I did pediatrics, and then became a pediatric cardiologist, and had decided I wanted to learn how to take care of some of the sicker patients, and that required an additional 2 years of training at that point. And so when I was looking for options, I had some mentors who had trained here a long time ago here in Toronto and encouraged me to look at it. And at the time, I was somewhat interested in health economics, and I was kind of had been learning a lot more about how much healthcare actually costs in the U.S. And I became really fascinated by an institution where I work now, the Hospital for Sick Children, who has the same outcomes on a very limited budget compared to where I had come from. And so it was a really kind of cool opportunity that came up, and I came thinking I was going to stay for 2 years, and go back to the U.S. And then when I was here, I realized what an amazing multicultural city this is. I realized I really liked, the institution itself, and serendipitous a job did come open. And so it all sort of fell together, and I, I'd already drunk the Kool-Aid, if you will, by that point, and kind of jumped on board and have been here ever since.
Seth, that's really interesting that you say you only expected to stay for a little bit and then you ended up staying a lot longer, because I think that's a story that's really true for a lot of expats. When I first moved overseas, my first post was in Kuwait, and I just expected to stay a year or two. And instead of going back to the US, I just loved it so much that I decided to keep staying international. But I think my initial reason for going abroad, I stayed in the US at first, and I think a lot of us graduated around a similar time, which was like right after the recession in 2008. And so I had to move away to get a job anyways. I moved down to North Carolina and was quite happy there for 5 years. And then because of the economic situation too, my pay as a teacher was frozen at a quite low rate for those 5 years. And that, combined with a really big desire to travel, just led me to looking abroad.
I know for me, I kind of was always headed overseas. I didn't really realize it, but from the time I was little, anything other was of interest to me. I made friends with the immigrant students. I learned how to count to 1,000 in Laotian because it was cool. And, I drank tea with, somebody's grandma, from a different country. And that was something that it was always a part of me, dated the exchange student in high school. It was always just kind of a part of my DNA, but I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. And being a missionary, I didn't know anything about being a missionary until I met one and realized she was a regular person. I had originally been thinking maybe I'd go into foreign service, I'd study poli-sci, I didn't know, maybe I'd do Peace Corps and that would scratch my itch. But then when I met this missionary, she was a real person, a regular person. And I was like, wow, she's like a regular person. And I'm a regular person. And maybe this is what God has designed me to be. And so it was something that it was sort of an aha moment to realize that's, wow, yeah, that's kind of how I was always wired. And then at Hope, I met my husband, Kirk Slater, who graduated in '90, and he was a missionary kid from Africa, from Ivory Coast. And I went to visit him in Africa when he was visiting his family, and I got bit by the Africa bug and have never been cured. And I knew that was the place. And so he did not drag me kicking and screaming to Africa. I went with both eyes open and running as fast as I could. So it was just something that was just right.
Yeah, I think my experience was really similar. From a really young age, I was really obsessed with languages and just anything that was like different. So I would say like my decision to like live and work overseas wasn't really like a decision. It was just like sort of this like pull of like the heart, or like there wasn't like a rational explanation for it for me, or like a certain justification. And like a lot of my experience and what happened to me was a lot of like, I'm just gonna try this, like go live in Kenya or work here, or like volunteer here or do this thing. So for me, it was a lot of just like trial and error in different places, and like, but yeah, it was something that started like pretty young and evolved while I was at Hope. Definitely at that time, I was thinking more like I wanted to be a missionary, but afterwards it evolved differently.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sharing. And kind of as you mentioned, Laura, you're saying that was kind of a lot of trial and error when you're moving around, finding jobs, figuring out how you want to spend your life. What kind of advice would you guys give a current student or a recent graduate who's thinking about living or working abroad in a different country? I don't know if you want to start, Seth.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the advice I would give is probably different than what I actually did. My advice would be start early and plan early. I didn't do any of that. I just kind of jumped on board and things happened. But I do think in that, and things did work out, but I do think my advice would be if you really think you want to do that, start thinking and planning early. And the things that kind of came up, I mean, obviously I had I was already a physician. I was already practicing as a pediatric cardiologist. And so when I came at a little bit different than when you would be if you came right out of university. But I think things that, you're going to need to think about, especially as a professional in another country, are things like maintaining a legal status, how you're going to obtain that, how you're actually going to obtain a professional status. So I got lucky, and in the end, a lot of my my boarding, and my medical degree, all of that was accepted and transferred, but it's not as easy and straightforward as you think, and really things take time. And so I think that was the second thing. And then the third thing really are what I say the life things, and things like, how do I get a bank account? How do I pay taxes? How do I, all that kind of life stuff. It took some time as well, and was a lot of trial and error. And in the end, I realized that things like immigration lawyers exist, and some of this, there are people that can help with this. And ultimately, I think I would have taken advantage of that earlier compared to when I did. I mean, it works out, but my advice would be start early and plan early, and know that there are people that can help you relocate and do this.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I graduated a year early because I was just like so like itching to go back to Africa. And so in some ways, like I did start like super young, and I also just kind of like threw myself like out there to try things, and I like it worked. So I guess that's some advice that I would give is like, don't like stress about what am I gonna do or what should I do or what, I don't know, just like sitting there toiling it with it. Like sometimes you just have to try something, and like either way, good or bad experience, like you're going to learn something through it. Like I liked it or I didn't like it, or, oh, wow, I'm really passionate about health, or, oh, I'm really passionate about this country or this place. And like, you can't really know that just like sitting in your house and wherever. And I think like if anyone is doing like social sciences or just any, I don't know, maybe health or education, I think like a really good starting point is something like Peace Corps. Or something similar, like a similarly structured program where it's like, you don't have to worry about a lot of things. Like they kind of take care of like, here's where you're going to go, here's where you're going to live. It's a 2-year program. Like it's kind of this like initial step. And the other like piece of advice I would give would be do study abroad. And even just study abroad in 2 different places, like, because also education is very structured, like you arrive, you go to class, you have friends, you have a plan. It's not just like, throwing yourself out there. And that's very much like how I started studying in Kenya for a year. And then, so that would be my advice for people who are just kind of lost, like just try something out and try one of these kind of already established like programs that can guide you and give you some experience.
Yeah, I would agree. It's good to just get out there and try. It's important. I think there's a lot of personal personal journey that needs to happen in yourself, especially if you're going somewhere very different, in understanding other people and in holding things loosely and what your expectations are. And if you're gonna, you're gonna go, and it's helpful to have that structured experience, because you can get there and you're not responsible for everything. So you can take that time to observe, to pay attention, to think about how you are interacting with people, to look at what you're doing. You may go with a specific purpose in mind and say, ooh, I like that. Actually, I thought I came for that, but I'm seeing this. And be open to redirect, but also just be open to understanding that, I think I'm coming from a missionary background. You have a lot of people that come and they're going to save all of Africa, and they're going to feed all the children, and they're going to fix everything. And it's really, relationship is really important, and sitting back and being a learner and observing. And so there's the technical stuff of what you're going to do and all of that, and you have to hold it loosely, but there's also a lot of personal journey in figuring out who you are in the grand scheme of things, and being willing to not be the big shot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and I think like the identity piece is really important, because as you move abroad and you spend more time away from your family, or maybe your childhood friends or that kind of thing, like you're growing and you're like exposing yourself to new things. And so that sort of internal process, I agree, is like really important to like observe what you like and don't like, or just observe your own learning.
I really liked Seth's point as well. Again, having come in two different tranches, the second time around, it was, there's much more emphasis on being, like, I don't know, the financial, the banking, the getting my visa, my passport, all the more sort of life logistics. These are all things that were not there for the first time. The first time I went, I was with one of these programs. It wasn't, Peace Corps or anything like that, but it was a program through the Japanese government for teaching, and it really did hold your hand through a lot of those little things. So depending on whether you're kind of like a professional or a new grad, my advice would be a little bit different. I would say, agreeing with Seth, definitely have everything in line. Think about what it's going to be. Ask people, reach out to your network, reach out to people at Hope College. There's a lot of people who advocate for experiences abroad, and I think they can give you a lot of valuable information. But if you're a new grad and you're kind of thinking about, or upcoming grad, if you're even thinking about it a little bit, my number one advice is just do it. Just go, dive in. You'll figure it out. You can't miss that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing these pieces of advice. And you guys all have so many interesting things to say. I'm learning so much sitting here. But kind of, you're talking about these different life challenges, like getting the pieces together. And I, as a college student, know how life is usually chaotic, and things are all over the place. How would you, or what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you have faced living abroad, or in your different country or wherever? Was it like cultural mannerisms, getting used to the different foods, the languages? There's so many different factors. Like, what were some of your biggest challenges, and how would you navigate those, or how did you navigate those? And I don't know if maybe Laura Nelson, are you okay with starting off?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like for me, maybe the cultural, the cross-cultural differences weren't such a big deal to me. Food or language or that kind of things. I think there is a piece that's important, not only when you're an American living abroad, but also Americans living in the US, like recognizing the privileges, what it means to be a white American, or what it means to be a white American in this country or that country. That's been a challenge, or just a process, like a learning process. And the other challenge that comes to mind is related just to the degree that I did and the career path that I chose. I think, you know, my degree was like more general. It was international studies. And so it wasn't like a particular professional program. And so there were times when I was like, oh, if I had just done education or if I had just done nursing, I would have had this really clear like professional track. And so I felt like kind of lost, like, how do I turn my degree into a job, a particular career? And I think that's not only unique to living abroad, you know, that's also happens to people in the US as well. But so I think it really took a lot of time. And I had to be like patient and just like enjoy each step of the process. As I was saying, like, it's not like, you know, okay, I studied XYZ, so therefore I'm achieving this profession, but it was like, okay, I'm going through this process of building this career, building this profession. And like, even you know, it took me a long time, a lot of time volunteering and a lot of time, yeah, unpaid work or paid very little in order to get to build enough experience to get a particular career or job. So I think those were like really the challenges, just having that patience to figure out like, how does my degree translate into something in the world, like a job in the world, and what do I really want to do, and how do my interests fit into that, and my skills fit into that.
I think for me, I'm thinking of two different challenges. One is more of like a kind of cultural thing when you move, especially if you move like every couple of years, like I just have ended up doing. One of the challenges is so many things are new at once, and all of those things that you take for granted of being easy to do are just so much more difficult, which gives you a lot of empathy for people who are, you know, coming to the US and navigating a new culture and language and society. So one example is just going to the grocery store in Korea and spending hours walking up and down the aisles and trying to figure out where everything is and what everything is, using Google Translate on my phone for everything. So that's a little thing, but then on the larger scale, I think a big challenge for living abroad is being so far away from your family and close friends for some of those bigger moments that you can't always get back for. Sometimes there might be a death in the family or a celebration, a big birthday or a wedding, and it's not always possible to get back. And so while there's so many plus sides to being able to live overseas, that's definitely one of the bigger challenges.
Yeah, I agree with that. COVID's made a lot of things difficult. I think we've all had to cancel flights, miss weddings, miss funerals. It's been a tough couple of years for that. So I do agree with that part. For the kind of the small parts about adjusting to a new culture or trying something new, seeing something new, that to me is the fun of it. That's really what I like about thrusting myself into a new environment, and you know, ultimately what drew me to some extended time overseas. For me, one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced, though, has been more in the career side. So, I mean, I'm in Japan. I would say it is not at all an English-speaking language or a country. So, regardless of the degree I had, I am going to be very challenged to find, you know, the full slew of career paths that you would have back in the States, back in your home country, back in a country where you have, you know, a native to, you know, perfect mastery of the language. So if you're looking to stay long-term in a country that maybe you're not perfect at the language, and maybe the people around you are not so good at English either, you may find some challenges with being able to, I guess, have as much diversity, as many different options for you. So you can always challenge yourself. You can always, you know, pick up new skills, but just try to think a little bit about, you know, if that country is good for a visit for a couple of years, or if it really does match you for kind of a long-term settling, because there are some unique challenges.
Yeah, I found, you know, things were very, very, very different in rural Uganda language, everything, living very different. And I loved those, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of, I don't know, I didn't have a whole lot of really deep culture shock because I was prepared for it. I was ready for it. I was like, bring it on. But the things that have challenged me the most has been the different understandings of what is a friend. And friendship in Uganda is defined very differently than it is in the US. And I would get really sick and tired of people constantly asking me for things. Just, I had diapers hanging on the line and someone comes and, can I have those diapers? And like, sorry, I got a baby, you know, or people were expecting that I would be giving and giving, you know, all the time. And I really, it was very hard. And then even people that were friends, closer friends. And, you know, here in our culture, you don't just constantly ask your friends for stuff. But it took me a long time to realize it's actually a part of the structure of friendships. And you ask for stuff, and then there'll be a time they ask you for stuff. And it took me a long time to realize, actually, I mean, there's part of it is you have stuff and we don't, so give it. There's a part of that sometimes it gets very tiring. But part of that is also building the relationship. And so trying to figure out how those, you know, what is a friend, and navigating some of that, and things that I assumed were friendly things that were deeper relationships were not, because there is not the same sense of always telling the whole truth as we might understand it. It's just a different way of communicating. And so sometimes, you know, you'd feel burned by someone you thought was a close friend. So navigating some of that was really hard, because you come with assumptions of what is a friend, and you're trying to build friendships and make lots of mistakes along the way.
No, I guess as I think about this, I will say when I first got the invite to the panel, I thought this is going to be very different. Right, I'm in Canada, you know, and when I tell people where I'm from right now, I say I grew up in Michigan, which is half Canada, you know, and so culturally, language, it's not necessarily that different. And I went into this thinking, you know, I was living in Ohio at the time when I moved here, and I went into all of this thinking it would be like I moved to Texas, right, or California. This was going to be no big deal. And there, you know, some of the challenges, actually, we'll say logistically, were when I came with the, you know, assuming that I would be able to set up a life instantaneously like I had, you know, in Ohio. And it was a little bit more challenging, you know, I mean, you know, I didn't realize that credit history didn't transfer from one country to another. So when I went and said, you know, yes, I want to rent this apartment and, you know, to start out, and I want to buy this condo, you know, I couldn't initially because I didn't have the credit history, you know, and so some of those things I wasn't expecting, and I think, you know, it was a challenge initially. You know, wasn't insurmountable at all. Obviously, I don't want you to think that, but it was stuff that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and was challenging at the beginning. You know, that some of the stuff was very different, and assuming that I was going to be able to translate the same, you know, professional life I had just across the border. I mean, it seemed like it was just another state, was actually very different. And I think that was a greater appreciation I have gained since being here.
Yeah, you guys have all had some really profound insight on what it's like to live in different countries and working abroad. And I think that some of the things you've said have just really made me think about a lot of different things. So I really appreciate that for myself. And kind of, I guess, going off of that, how do you think your time at Hope prepared you for living or working abroad? I don't know if Laura Slater, are you okay starting?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I came in and I filled in the housing questionnaire, you know, and on there was, would you be interested in rooming with an international student? And I was like, yes, bring it on. And I lived with a South African lady, and that was really a blast, you know, and it was neat, the different international students on campus, and partly just because of who I am, I tried to make friends with all of them, because it's, you know, like I said, it's my DNA. And then I started dating a missionary kid. My husband grew up in West Africa, and so that was also a part of it. And I know missionary kids have gone there, and I think that's a great experience as well, for them, but also for us to see people who have lived somewhere else. And then I did Vienna Summer School, which was great. It was one of those overseas structured kind of things, and that was a blast. And kind of while I was in the hemisphere, I did some traveling around in Europe before and after, and even that's when I went down to Ivory Coast to visit Kirk and his family. And so that just launched me in that direction, which was a really neat experience. And then also, as an education major, we had practicum experiences in a variety of different schools and in the area. So that got me out of my little Hope College bubble into some of the, different schools with different student populations. And that was a lot of fun. So there are lots of those different kinds of experiences. And I think it's those kinds of things that really open your eyes. And so I love seeing some of the international things going on at Hope, bring the world in so that we can get out into it.
Yeah, I feel like Hope has a lot of opportunities in that regard, like being able to do an internship in Holland or elsewhere. The June terms, I did my senior seminar in Rwanda. I also did like another summer term in Mexico. So I think, yeah, just taking advantage of those, again, as we talked about, having this sort of structured opportunity to try things out, just taking advantage of those while you're in college is a great, is really a good opportunity. And then also for me, particularly because I was a student who I didn't really know what I wanted my degree to be in. I changed like 3 times. I took classes in everything, like nutrition, social work, history, like it was really just a mix. And so I think either that prepared me for nothing or like prepared me for everything. I don't know. But yeah, I think that was good, just having that flexibility to be able to like change degrees in my 2nd year and in my 3rd year, and then add a minor and then take away a minor. And yeah, that allowed me just to explore different things.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, at its core, Hope College is a liberal arts institution, right? So, overseas is not one experience. Maybe you go there for art, for history, maybe you're interested in the culture, the anthropology. Like there's so many ways that you can get excited about it. And hopefully through some of the courses, you kind of discover yourself, what makes you tick a bit. And I think that's kind of what helps prepare you, because you know what you're looking for sometimes. But then, yeah, as other people have said, do the summer program. If you can, get a semester abroad. That's such a good experience. My biggest regret about the summer program is it was just too short. The 3-4 weeks goes so fast. So get yourself over there as long as you can, honestly.
Yeah, like do the full semester. I did a full year. Do what you can do, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo that, Justin. The liberal arts education, I didn't take advantage of international opportunities at Hope. If I could go back, I 100% would have done it. I think once that kind of you get the bug, you want to keep going, and I still sometimes plan my next move here. But I do think what I learned from Hope in liberal arts background was how to think and how to ask questions, and how to, what we say, think big. And I think those are things that you need to have and skills you need to have to go and to try to, as you establish a career and a life, in a different country. And I do think the other thing was, my time at Hope when I was there as well too, it wasn't like I walked outside and I was in a big multicultural city, it never was. But what I do think is that you learn diversity of thought, and you learn that there is a lot more diversity in experiences and opinions. And I remember being in those senior seminar courses, that you actually do appreciate that more. And I think those are skills that translate as you go abroad. Those are the foundation. And so I do think actually that was the biggest preparation, was how to think and how to think big like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting things to hear as someone who's currently experiencing. I'm definitely taking a lot of mental notes on what to do to perhaps follow a similar path. I guess as we are running into our last 10 minutes here, maybe we can move on to some of the Q&As from our attendees. A little out of order here, but for those who have taught English abroad, did you complete teaching English as a foreign language certificate beforehand? If so, do you have any recommendations like regarding certification programs? I know that Jill, specifically you are kind of in the teaching hemisphere of things. Do you have any advice on this?
Sure. Yeah, I was actually in the middle of writing back a response to that person privately. But so my experience is a little different since I had my teaching degree and certification before I went abroad. I do have different friends and people I've met in different countries who have gone the English teacher route. And a lot of times what I do hear from those people, you might choose to do that for a couple of years and then move back. But if you're seriously thinking about teaching abroad for long term or more than a couple of years, I highly suggest that you get your teaching certificate, because then you'll be able to actually get into larger international schools where the pay is a lot better. You have a much better network. You're going in there, they're helping you with the visa and everything that you need, sometimes providing language classes. And that's actually what I've heard from some of my friends who have just gotten TOEFL or other certificates. But that might be a different experience. I know, I think Justin was talking about how he started by teaching in English in Japan, and then he entered the corporate world. So he might have a different opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say, at least for the Japan market, it's not a necessity, but it kind of depends on how far you want to take that. If you're kind of looking to do 6 months, a year of some sort of teaching program, like there are a lot of options, and of course having it is better. If it's a competitive program, you're more likely to get in, but it's not a prerequisite. After that though, like if you wanted to stay on and you wanted to join like a local school or like a private school or something that's requires a little bit more experience, like it's a must-have. And in many cases, if you want to stay on and teach at more of a collegiate level, you're going to need to have even a master's degree in English education. So it's going to depend a bit on the market and also what you want to do with it.
I would suggest, if you want to learn more about teaching internationally, just reaching out to one of us who's done it. We can have a one-on-one chat. I know I'd be happy to do that. Also, the International Educator is a great resource online, and Search Associates is a really great resource. Those are some recruiting agencies where you can look for jobs. And also they have some different publications and articles about the job search process and about what it's like to teach at an international school. So that would be another good starting place.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of really valuable insight you both have on that. Kind of to switch the topic a little bit, Tessa was asking if you have any recommendations of organizations for structured post-grad experiences. I'm not sure if anybody has anything they might be able to input to this or not. Maybe not. That's okay.
I feel like there are a lot of like teaching. I'm not sure because I didn't take this path, but I do feel like there are a lot of like teaching or even just like or even volunteer teaching opportunities that, or like the one Justin did that was like by the Japanese government sponsored. I feel that that comes up quite a lot. Otherwise, yeah, Peace Corps is the main one that comes to mind. And I know the Canadian government has one called BSO, which Americans can do sometimes. But yeah, I'm not sure.
There are also
Someone mentioned-
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay, Laura, you go first.
I know. I was just saying there are also mission organizations that have different opportunities, and you could go for a 2-year or shorter term kind of thing. Of course, that's with the missions emphasis, but those might be in a variety of different fields. So there might be a school where, like the school where I teach, we are constantly looking for teachers to come out for a couple of years. So that's an advertisement out there for any of you education majors. We're always looking for teachers. But then there are also other organizations that might be doing short-term, whether it's doing more rural teaching, or maybe it's helping with, if you have a particular skill, coming alongside local folks and helping them learn that skill. So I would highly recommend, if you have that that ministry bent and want to approach it from a ministry aspect, missions organizations have a lot of those kinds of opportunities, and I would be very happy to help people get connected in that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess.
I would also,
Go ahead, Jill, please.
okay, I'll be quick. Thanks, Seth. I would also say, depending on the community that you're living in, reach out to local colleges and see if they have any scholarships, or if they can connect you with any scholarship organizations. When I was living down in North Carolina as a teacher, I found about an opportunity to study abroad when I was a teacher over the summer, and it was covered by a scholarship, and I got to take a class through the local university and travel with a group of teachers, and that also really got me interested in teaching abroad. So just reach out and ask your local university.
And I forgot to mention Fulbright, because Fulbright also has English teaching / I think just teaching in general, so that's another one, and research.
Yeah, and I was going to say the thing is just a lot of it's going to depend on your background and your kind of niche in your career, et cetera. I mean, within my profession, a big one is Doctors Without Borders, but it's not just doctors that they take, and so if you come from a nursing background, or if you're, going to go into physical therapy or something from a health profession standpoint, there's a lot of within those professions, there's a lot of already predetermined courses. I think if I could do it again, there's a part of me that thinks I would have gone that route as well.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. So one of the questions that is in the Q&A is, when you move away, it can be difficult to find friends and build a community, let alone moving to another country. What strategies helped you all to find your own communities?
I think one thing to find a community is get into a hobby that you really like. So I started cycling when I was in Korea and met a lot of friends through that activity. And now that I'm here in Barcelona, it's been even harder to meet people because of the pandemic. So just finding meetup groups online and getting to know people that way through an activity that I love to do is really kind of an easier way to do it.
Yeah, I would fully second. Through activities, I think is helpful. I randomly, a colleague at work was part of a summer beach volleyball league. I never played volleyball in my life, really, but joined it, and that's actually where you start building community. And so I did it through activities. Was the number one way to do it, especially if you want to maintain some sort of community outside of your work community. So that's how I started.
Say yes to everything. You're going to be kind of a unique character in people's lives. So they're all going to want to show you their favorite restaurant, or take you to their grandma's birthday party, and just go. Just keep an open mind, and just get curious and just try things that you maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to do at home, but just go and try things.
Yes, thank you so much. I guess in an effort to be respectful of everybody's time and schedule, we will kind of end the discussion here, but thank you so much again, panelists. It was truly an honor to sit here with you and listen to your experiences. And wherever you are, I hope you have a good rest of the night, day, afternoon, and thank you again so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you so much.